So I'm facing a very difficult choice because I want to use a certain song for the intro. And if you've seen the movie, you know what song it is. But the last video, yesterday's video, the Strangers video, got claimed because I wanted to do a special song for the intro. I don't know if it's worth it, but we'll see. Christine. So Christine is a movie from, what's his name, John Carpenter. My brain already, John Carpenter, who directed the original Halloween film and The Thing and more, but those are my two favorite movies that he's done. Well, Christine is number 3 then, I guess. As you could already tell from me just saying that, Christine is one of my favorite film adaptations of a Stephen King novel. I have not read Christine. I have it on Audible. I have not listened to it yet, but I plan to very soon. Don't attack me, please. So Christine centers around this kid named Arnie Cunningham. He is he's a bit of a nerd and a little bit of a pushover, but he has a friend named Dennis who's kind of halfway between cool guy and jock. But like cool guy is in like you can hang out with him if you're not a jock, that sort of thing. Like he's a good person, he's kind. And he's pretty much been Arnie's friend for a good while now before the movie takes place. But Arnie gets bullied and he's having a really bad day, but then he comes across this old beat up 58 Plymouth Fury named Christine. And the guy that's selling it is all weird, and the car is all janky. He's like, "Oh well, I'll just work on it." So he, for the car, like legitimately calls out to him basically and attracts him to buying it. And so he and Christine form a bond pretty much immediately. But one thing that's important to know about Christine is that his previous owner, the guy who sold it, his brother used to own the car. He kind of changed into a different type of person after having the car for a while, and that change becomes immediately visible in Arnie. He grows a spine within like 5 hours of owning the car, and just over the course of the movie, he gets progressively different. You know, he starts to become obsessed with the car. Nothing is allowed to come between him and Christine. Nothing is more important to him than Christine, and I will admit, she is a beautiful car. Cars from this era, because this movie takes place in 1979, cars from that era and even before, because by that point, like I said, she's a 58 Plymouth Fury, so she's old. So by the time you get to like that era of cars, just from the 50s to the 70s, that's kind of my fetish. So leave me alone, all right? I had a really great time watching this movie. Just a bunch of beautiful old cars. It's magnificent, honestly. But here's a pièce de résistance when it comes to Christine, the car itself. She seems to be alive. Well, she's definitely alive. I don't know if it's that the car is haunted, because it comes off the assembly line with cruel intent. You know what I mean? But it's alive, it can self-repair, it can self-drive, it communicates with Arnie in a strange way. It uses the radio to communicate to like the audience in the movie, but I'm pretty sure Arnie himself can hear the car's thoughts or something like that. That seems to be implied. I'm not sure if that's exactly what the movie's going for, but it's how I've always interpreted it. But I think using the radio to speak is where Transformers got the idea for Bumblebee. I don't know. I can't say that for sure. But I mean, Christine comes a good deal before the first Transformers movie. So I think I don't feel too bad about making that general assumption. But the thing about this movie is that if you're going to do the type of character arc that Arnold has, where he's, you know, it's a negative change arc, you have to be very careful with it. It does have to be very gradual and believable and consistent. And the movie absolutely nails it. For some reason, this has only got a 68% on Rotten Tomatoes. I don't understand Rotten Tomatoes when it comes to horror movies. But I mean, because the first half is like a mystery type of thriller movie, and then the second half is full-on slasher. The car becomes a slasher, and I'm just like, all right, that works for me. I'll take it. Why not? But the previous owner of Christine ended up dead in the car, and you get a sense that it's going to end up happening to Arnie too, and you feel bad for him because he didn't do anything wrong. He just fell victim to this car's curse, I guess. But I also really like all the Arnie, Dennis, and Lee. Those are the only characters that really matter to the overall story. Also, Arnie's parents are kind of just mean to him for a while, but they also try to do their best with him. It's complicated, right? Like it's the type of parent dynamic that you saw a lot in movies from that era, where they're just living vicariously through the child, so they try to control and manipulate everything that the kid does. And then Arnie already felt some type of way. He had some resentment about that. And then the car changes his personality, and he gets to the point where he just hates his parents. And I'm like, oh, poor parents, poor everybody in this movie. Everybody suffers because they care too much about somebody. Typically Arnie, though, but I mean, that's just how it works, I suppose. Now, I mentioned earlier that she is self-repairing, and what I mean by that, or how you come to find that out in the movie, is that about halfway through the midpoint, which I've been paying a lot more attention to the midpoint of movies ever since Troy Oboyo pointed it out a long time ago. I don't really watch Troy Oboyo anymore, but it's still something that I think about, especially as a writer. But the midpoint of the movie, the guys that bullied Arnie earlier in the movie, they go into the shop where he's keeping his car and they just trash it. They destroy the car, basically. And Arnie's upset about it, so he's like, okay, well, I'm just going to fix her up. We'll be good. But then she just starts fixing herself. And instead of Arnie reacting in a normal, reasonable way, he's just like, okay, show me. He's just like, I'm not surprised. Go ahead, fix yourself. I want to see it happen. And then it's revenge time. It's revenge time on everyone that treated her poorly. And that is a pretty satisfying sequence to watch. Seeing Christine do the thing is probably the best part of the movie. It just takes a while to get there. The movie is pretty slow, but I don't think that makes it boring, at least not in the same way as like the Texas Chainsaw Massacre was pretty boring for the first half, or The Conjuring was pretty boring for the first 99.5% of the film. And when it comes to certain effects regarding the car being self-repairing, some of them are kind of like when you're watching, you can obviously tell that they took like destruction footage and then reversed it so that it would be repairing footage. But some of it's actually like really cleverly done. And I'm like, that doesn't look like it's reversed. What did they actually do there? Because there's nothing like actively damaging the car in that shot, so they couldn't just reverse it because then it wouldn't change anything. So it's like, how did they do that? And then like the car being on fire, obviously you don't want to put a driver in there for too long because you don't want to have somebody on fire for too long because they will eventually burn to death no matter how much goo you put on them. So it's like, well, how did they do that? Like, it makes me think from a filmmaking perspective how they did some of that stuff, and that's cool. This is a 1983 movie. Same year as Return of the Jedi. Overall, though, I just love everything about this movie. The acting, the editing. There are a couple weird edits, but that just happens with these older movies. Camera rigs weren't what they are now. You can't really put cameras in the exact same types of places. So some shots, some edits are weird. But the editing, the pacing, the premise, just the story overall, everything is so good. This is a great movie. And Christine is spectabulous. I know. 11 movies and there's only been 2 spectabuluses so far. By the way, we just crossed 10. This is the 11th review. We're pretty much 1/3 of the way done with this. How have you guys felt about the lineup of movies so far? Have you enjoyed the selections that we've been doing? Do you think that so far we haven't gotten to your favorites? Just what do you think about this? Do you want it to stop? Are you tired of seeing all these movie reviews back to back to back? Because it's kind of draining, but I have the stamina to finish this, I'm sure of it. Whatever you think, though, whatever you want out of this in the future, go ahead and comment below and tell me. I want to know. All that being said, though, check out Jedi's review of this movie, and I'll see you very soon.